Spontaneous speaking video 25. Have you guys ever thought about how much information other people know and that we have access to, but because of time that we refuse to sacrifice or because of the focus that we refuse to actually invest, then we're not able to even receive that information? And I think a lot of this information, or actually majority of this information, can be found not only in videos like these, but mainly in books. And that's something that I've actually been reading, or not even reading, I'm sorry, thinking about a lot recently, how there's so much information in books. If you go to a library and look for any topic, like if you're thinking about any topic out there, and you just step into a library and you look for a book on that topic, you'll find 100 books, or even more, about that topic. And you have all these different perspectives and everything. I think of like Klaus Baudelaire from Series of Unfortunate Events, and how he's known for like reading so many books. So he just has like all of this insight and this wisdom and all this information that helps him in life, because he just has all of these things. Like, he just has a whole bunch of information on how to live life, like how to do certain things in life. And he learned that from other people who he either met but most of them he never met. We learn a lot of things from the people in our lives, but we can learn so much from people who are already dead. If we read their biographies, if we read their autobiographies, if we read their journals, whatever type of their books, regular books that they've actually written, like, we can learn so much from these people. The problem is we all have short attention spans, and so we don't even take the time to go and do that. You pick up a book, it's like, this is too thick, it's too long, I don't have time to sit here and read, and so you don't. And when you think about it this way that I'm about to present, it's like, dang. We see it as sacrificing our time. But is it really a sacrifice if what we're getting back in return is a well of information that is timeless? If we actually take the time to sit down maybe for 30 minutes every day, we have 24 hours a day. If we have the time to sit down for 30 minutes every day to sit down and just read our Bible, or for those of you who are not Christians out there, read whatever other books that are out there in libraries and such, even if it's fictional, just taking the time to understand somebody else's perspective or get information about something else, even going online and reading information. Do you know how knowledgeable we would be? Rather than just sitting down and wasting our time watching I guess watching comedians or whatever is not necessarily a waste of time. It's a way to relax. But my main point is that there's a lot of information that we can get from books, and we just choose not to. We tend to neglect how appropriate or how helpful, how beneficial those books could be to us, because we do not have the attention span to sit down and cuddle up with the book, because we're always being distracted by other people in our lives, or the other stuff that we have to do, or the other stuff that we don't have to do. TV has taken a part of that as well. And the next thing you know, you just want to go to sleep. You didn't even spend any time filling up your mind with another topic that you could probably use in the future. All of this to say that I've read a whole montage of books in my lifetime, and I actually plan to read a lot more before I'm dead, whenever that'll be. And I just wanted to share with y'all my top, I believe I wrote down 10, my top 10 books that have really helped me in life. And so, without further ado, I'm going to mention those, and hopefully it'll encourage y'all to go out there and read some more, And let's just get started. The first book is the Bible. Now, there's a whole bunch of translations for this one. I prefer the HCSB. I actually forgot what that one stands for, but that's the one that I have. I think it's Holman's Christian Study Bible or something like that. I don't know. The ESV Bible, the New English Translation Bible. I don't like the NIV, but you guys can get that if you want, I guess. And there's just a whole bunch of different translations for Bibles. And the Bible is not something that you just read from cover to cover. You can, and there are people who do that. There's like devotionals out there where you can like read the Bible like throughout the whole year. And by the beginning of the year, you start somewhere, and then by the end of the year, you've read the whole Bible. There's people who do this like every year. Unfortunately, I've been able to do it. I'm probably gonna try again one day in the future, like maybe when I'm out of college or something. But I did get pretty far. I think I reached somewhere in the middle of Psalms, so it's good for me. But almost is never enough. Anyway, I've seen it to be very beneficial, whether you're a Christian or not. People who actually read these the stories are like very motivational. To me, I see them to be fact, to be believed, to be faith driven, and completely verified and credible. So to me, they impact me maybe more than they would impact like other people. But that's my number one book, and my number one book happens to have 66 books. So for those of you who may start reading the Bible and you may be like new to it, I recommend starting with James, the book of James, or the book of Proverbs, or let me give you another one, Matthew. I would start reading from Matthew, and read a chapter a day, or read 3 chapters a day, however much time you get, and just sit down in the Bible and read. The second book is The Blueprint by Kirk Franklin. I absolutely loved this book, and I've read it twice ever since I was 15, and I've actually mentioned Kirk Franklin a few times on Twitter, letting him know like how much this book has impacted me. In this book, Kirk Franklin really takes the time to tell his testimony, how he became a Christian, the lessons that he's learned in life. And he's basically creating a blueprint for other people's lives so that if they didn't have their father around or something along those lines, they could learn from his mistakes so that they could continue to run with the baton. And for those of you who choose to read the book, you'll understand that metaphor. But yeah, it's a very good book, and I definitely recommend it to y'all. The third book that I would recommend, and by the way, this is not in any certain order, but this is the third book that I'd recommend. It's Every Man's Battle. And this book is all about, especially like for Christians, but I would say like anyone who's dealing with like lust issues, like for pornography and all of that. It's a very helpful book in dealing with that. The writers are really open. I believe the writers' names are Stephen Arterburn, Fred Stoker, and Mike Yorkie. And they do a fantastic job with how they're presenting their own testimonies and all of that. They've written a whole bunch of other books, even ones for like women, and it's helping you with like pornography and just being a man, like being able to be free from lust and just like walk in that calling that you have. So that's been a very impactful book to me. The next book that I'm going to mention off is Type Talk. I actually forgot the writers, but I'm putting up pictures for these hopefully. And Type Talk was a fantastic book that I've read. I absolutely loved that book. I believe, actually now the author is coming back to me, I believe that one of them's name was Otto Kroegen. And that was the first MBTI book that I've ever read. And it brought so much insight to everything. It made me know that there's more to MBTI than just are you an N or an S, but there's it taught me about the cognitive functions. It helped me learn about all the other 16 types. It helped me a lot with learning how to type other people and a whole bunch of misconceptions that I still use of today. And it just helped me a lot also with personal development and understanding other people in my life. And I think that this book, especially for those of you who are planning to go into ministry or are psychology majors. I'm not a psychology major. I'm actually a communications major. But those of you who are just interested in MBTI in general, this is a very good book that you can start off with. It's so easy to read. It's not boring. They don't use a whole bunch of vernacular that you would not understand. It's very simple, and it actually has a lot of jokes, and it's funny, and they have profiles for each type in the back. So yeah, I found that pretty helpful, and it was good. The next book is He Came to Set the Captives Free by Rebecca M.D., I believe. And that book was fantastic. That book is a true story about a woman named Elaine who died. No, she did not die. I'm sorry. She was born deformed in a hospital that was mainly ran by Satanists. And basically, if I remember correctly, the Satanists they made an agreement with their parents that if they left Elaine there for, I think, a day or two, that they would do anything they could to like fix her up or whatever. And what they ended up actually doing was dedicating Elaine to Satan. And so Elaine then was like infested with demons and all of that. It's really crazy. I see a lot of you being like, oh, heck no, I guess it's not the book for me. It's actually one of those books where if you're not spiritually ready for it, then be careful. But after you read it, it's very spiritually charging. I felt like after I read it, not due to fear, it did make me fear, like to the point where I left the book in my living room every single time I was going to sleep, and I could not read it in the room by myself because I was just afraid like some demons were gonna like show up in my room or something, like, hey, you know too much, or something like that. But yeah, like I was saying, like, so Elaine gets involved in the cult, which is Satanism and all of that. And Rebecca is one of the nurses at the hospital, and she's basically the only Christian there. And God calls Rebecca to go and help Elaine out of Satanism. And it's just a beautiful story, guys. It taught me so much, and I think that a lot of you would benefit from it. There is a prayer at the beginning. Like I said, this is heavy stuff, so I don't want you to think that this is light stuff. I mean, look at the freaking cover. It's a crazy book, but I believe that you would find it very beneficial, especially in your Christian life, and that you would enjoy it. So yeah, get that book. Next ones are a series of unfortunate events, and these, even though they're fictional, they taught me a lot of vocabulary back when I was a kid. And this was my favorite series, like, of all time to read. I read a lot. I read all of them once, and then, so I read the whole series through. There's 13 books. I read them once, and then I started over again, but I wasn't able to get my hands on all of the books again. But one day I'm going to buy the whole entire series again, and I'm going to sit down and just read it, have like a whole bunch of nostalgia. It's great. They have the Netflix series now on there, so that's also good, very nostalgic, but there's nothing like a book. And I feel like when you sit down with these books, it paints such a great image in your mind. So I'd even recommend reading the books before you go watch the Netflix series, so that you can give your mind the ability to have its own time to create this world from what you read, and then when you go watch it, then you see like how their interpretation of it. But they're great books. Like I said, they taught me a lot of vocabulary, and it's just so interesting the type of things that they go through. But it was one of those things where I ran away to. It was one of those books where whenever I was feeling down or whatever, I would just sit down in my bed and read, fall asleep, and I had dreams even from their unfortunate events. So the next book is Why You Do the Things You Do. I had to read this book for Psychology 150, which is Psychology of Relationships, and it doesn't go into MBTI stuff, but it talks a lot about like just general psychological, cognitive insights, and it was really helpful in understanding like why you do the things that you do. So I think that that's a book that a lot of people really benefit from. A lot of the people that get the book over here, they don't see it as, oh, I'm just getting another textbook, but it's something that they actually enjoy and benefit from. And so yeah, recommend that book for sure. The next book is Please Understand Me, and there's also Please Understand Me Too, if I'm not mistaken. Those books are really good from what I hear. I actually read the first one and I really enjoyed it. It was just like another type talk type of book. It's an MBTI book, and I believe David Keirsey wrote it. I'm going to be putting all these pictures over there, so if I'm wrong about any of the authors, well, at least you can read them over there. But they write out all of these typology systems like so clearly, and I see it as the more books you read on typology, the more insights you get about typology, especially for those of us who are actually really interested in MBTI and everything, then the better and more accurate your typing or your profiling skills will become, the sharper it'll be. I'm way better at profiling now than I was this time last year and even before then. And so I think that that's just another book that will help a lot of young profilers out there who are just interested in psychology or just interested in getting to know themselves on a deeper level and knowing other people and understanding other people. Next is Laugh Your Way to a Happier Marriage by Mark Gungor. This book is everything the title entails. This guy came to speak at my school, and he gave a great, demonstration of like the difference between how girls think and how girls think and how guys think. And, there's also like YouTube videos of like his speeches on like his sermons on like porn and everything. He's a marriage counselor and he is hilarious. But this guy, despite how hilarious he is or whatever, he is so intentional and he is so knowledgeable and so smart. This book was so easy to read. Like for those of you who, well, obviously don't have as much of a short attention span since you're still listening to this video, so kudos to you. But for those who do have a short attention span, I think that you would even have a hard time not being able to finish this book because it is that funny. He puts so many funny like little illustrations and metaphors in there. For my MBTI geeks out there, I'm pretty positive that he's an ENFP, and he's just hilarious. But I love him, and I think that book has definitely been one of my most impactful books that I've ever read. I'd say it's in my top 3. And so I definitely recommend it to all of you. Get that book for sure. It'll help you have a better marriage in the future. And lastly, but not least, Jefferson Bethke's book about why Jesus is so much greater. I believe it's Jesus Over Religion. This book helped me have a greater perspective on what exactly the Christian life entails. Because even though I had been saved for about 2 years before I read this book, the way that I got saved and the people that like discipled me, I just had, my doctrine was not as sharp or as on point as I now perceive it to be. And it was just nice to like receive like a different perspective of like, oh, this is what being religious is, and this is what actually having a relationship with Jesus is, and seeing the freedom that we have in Christianity beyond just, oh, I'm not allowed to have sex before I get married and stuff like that. Even freedom such as like listening to secular music and being able to now like have your own personal convictions and knowing where the lines are drawn between gray areas and like this is just plain black and white, wrong and good. And so those are the books that I recommend to you, and I hope that this has been a helpful video to all of you. I hope that you're still watching, and if you are, thank you for still watching. Let me know what you think about these books, and if you guys have any books that you recommend to me or to anybody else, or if you've read any of these books, be sure to comment below. I'd really appreciate it, and I'm totally open to like book recommendations. Books that I'm reading right now are C.S. Lewis books. I really enjoy him. So he's the writer of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the Narnia books. And I think that he just has such a creative mind, and I'm just really enjoying that. I'm also reading a business book. So let's see how that goes. I've been reading that one for months now, but I'll eventually finish it. And now that I'm putting out this video, I'm gonna learn to continue to go by what I preach and actually go read right now. Done.